Indian ethics, the ethical theory of Jainism. The concept of Ahimsa or non-violence. The significant most part of Jaina's philosophy is their ethics or their ethical theory. The heart of Jaina ethics is the concept of Ahimsa or non-violence. Mahavira avers, there is no quality of soul more subtle than non-violence and no virtue of spirit greater than reverence for life. Literally, the word Ahimsa means not to harm oneself and others. Here, it is important to note that not just the human beings, but all the living beings, right from the largest mammal to the smallest bacteria, comes within the definition of the others. Therefore, it means being completely harmless. Hence, Ahimsa, in terms of actions, thoughts, and speech, is the central idea of Jaina ethics. Jaina's agamas or scriptures quote, "Do not injure, abuse, oppress, enslave, insult, torment, and torture or kill any creature or living being." The concept of three ratnas. According to Jainism, the bondage of the soul occurs when it is associated with matter or pudgala. In other words, bondage is due to the union of the matter with soul. So, in order to be liberated, it is important to stop the inflow of the karmic particles or karma into the soul. This is possible via the three jewels or the three ratnas of Jainism. The three jewels are number 1, right faith, number 2, right knowledge, number 3, right conduct. In other words, they are also called number 1, Samyak Darshana, number 2, Samyak Jnana, number 3, Samyak Charitra. The three jewels are number 1, right faith. Right faith is also called Samyak Darshana. This means to have faith in the teachings of the teachers or the founders of the faith of Jainism. The founders of the faith of Jainism are also called Tirthankars. Right faith paves the way for right knowledge. According to Uma Swami, right faith means possessing the attitude of respect or Shraddha towards the truth or the teachings of the founders. It is believed that unless we possess respect or faith in the teachings, the knowledge cannot begin. Hence, it is important to note that right faith is not blind faith, it is the minimum required faith or the will to show faith. Without right faith, right knowledge cannot begin. Right faith means respect for truth. Number 2, right knowledge. Right knowledge is also called Samyak Jnana. This means the knowledge of reality which can be obtained by studying carefully the teachings of the Tirthankars, who have already attained liberation and are hence fit to lead others out of the bondage. According to Jainism, it is important to note that the concept of right knowledge means it is proper knowledge of the Jaina scriptures or the agamas. It is important for it helps us to acquire the sufficient knowledge of the universe. But according to Jainism, knowledge alone is insufficient unless it is put into practice. So we have the third jewel, which is called the right conduct or Samyak Charitra. Number 3, right conduct or Samyak Charitra. It is also called right conduct because it deals with performing of those actions which are right, and it also aims at refraining from all those actions which are wrong. Right conduct means refrain from doing harmful things to others. It means to free oneself from attachments. It also means to free oneself from impure thoughts and actions. It deals with right motivation in order to live an ethical life. It is important to note that Uma Swami states Moksha or liberation is the joint product of the three gems of Jainism. The three gems of Jainism are also called three ratnas: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. It is mentioned in the very first sutra of Tattvarthigama Sutra. The 7 right actions. The 7 right actions come under the head of the right conduct or Samyak Charitra. These are number 1. According to Jainism, one must take the 5 great vows or the Panca-Maha-Vrata. They are number 1, Ahimsa or non-violence. It deals with abstinence from injury to all life. Abstinence in the form of thought, action, and speech. It is primarily based on the idea that all souls are potentially equal. Number 2, Satyam or truth. It deals with abstinence from falsehood. This vow deals with speaking not only what is true but also what is pleasant and good. Number 3, Asteyam or non stealing. Abstinence from stealing. This vow is based on the idea of the sanctity of the property. In other words, it means never taking away something which is not given to oneself. Number 4, Brahmacharyam or celibacy. It means abstinence from self indulgence. This vow not just focuses on celibacy but also on giving up the desire or the karma of every form. Hence, one must keep oneself away from all the internal and external forms of self indulgence. Number 5, Aparigraha or non attachment. Abstinence from all sorts of attachment or all forms of attachment is called aparigraha. This vow deals with abstaining from all the attachment to sense objects. It includes objects of touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. Number 2, practice the 5 Samitis or carefulness in walking, speaking, receiving alms or eating, placing objects, and disposing. This is to be done keeping in mind that no harm should come to any form of life. Number 3, practice the 3 guptis or controls, restraints of thought, speech, and bodily movements. Number 4, practice the 10 dharmas or good acts. The 10 dharmas are truthfulness, forgiveness, humility, straightforwardness, contentment, self control, cleanliness, sacrifice, non attachment, and celibacy. Number 5, meditate on the cardinal truths taught regarding the self and the world. This is called Anuprakashas. Number 6, Parisahajaya or develop a patient attitude towards the time of difficulties and hardships. Number 7, Charitra or conduct. It means to conduct oneself in accordance with the spiritual path. For example, spiritual practices like equanimity, purity, removing of greed, or non attachment should be practiced. The concept of Panca-Maha-Vratas. The 5 great vows or the Panca-Maha-Vratas according to Jainism are for the clergy, the monks, and the monkhood. They are very strict, very rigid, and puritanic in nature and are to be religiously followed. They are number 1, Ahimsa or non violence, which means abstinence from injury to all life. Abstinence in the form of thought, action, and speech is to be practiced. This is primarily based on the idea that all souls are potentially equal and no superior soul and no inferior souls are these 2 such concepts which are accepted in the philosophy of Jainism. Number 2, Satyam or truth. Abstinence from falsehood is Satyam. This vow deals with speaking not only what is true but also what is pleasant and good in nature. Number 3, Asteyam or non stealing. Abstinence from stealing is called Asteyam. This vow is based on the idea of the sanctity of the property. In other words, it means never taking away something which is not given to oneself in the first hand. Number 4, Brahmacharya. Abstinence from self indulgence is called Brahmacharya. This vow not only focuses on celibacy but also on giving up the desire or the karma of every form. Hence, one must keep oneself away from all internal and external forms of self indulgence. Number 5, Aparigraha. Aparigraha means abstinence from all forms of attachment. This vow deals with abstaining from the attachment to sense objects. It includes objects of touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. The concept of Panca-Anu-Vratas. The 5 small vows according to Jainism are for the laity. So, they are accordingly modified and diluted and are not as rigid or strict as the 5 big vows for the clergy. They are number 1, Ahimsa or non violence. It remains the same. Number 2, Satyam or truth, which is abstinence from falsehood. It also remains the same. Number 3, Asteyam or non stealing. Abstinence from stealing is called asteyam. It remains the same in both the Panch-Maha-Vratas and the Panca-Anu-Vratas. Number 4 and number 5, which is brahmacharya and aparigraha, are different. Under the Panca-Anu-Vratas, brahmacharya means practicing chastity, and number 5, aparigraha, means practicing contentment. The concept of Samvara and Nirjara. According to Jainism, the bondage of the soul occurs when it is associated with matter or pudgala. In other words, bondage is the union of the matter with soul. Therefore, liberation is nothing but complete annihilation or separation or disassociation of matter from the soul. This process is possible in two ways. Number 1, by stopping the influx of matter into the soul. It is called Samvara. Number 2, by complete annihilation or elimination of matter. This is called Nirjara. The state of Nirjara is also called the state of wearing out of karmas. When all the particles of matter are exhausted, and when there remains no association or union between the matter and soul, then the soul shines in its intrinsic nature of infinite faith, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss and infinite power. These four together are called Ananta Chatushtaya. This state is called the state of moksha or liberation. In this state, omniscience or Kevala Gnana is attained and the soul transcends samsara or the cycle of rebirth and heads to Siddhashila. Siddhashila is the top of the world where the liberated souls reside. Therefore, Jainism is a school of philosophy of ethical teachings which only aims at the perfection of the soul.